Hello, hello, and welcome back to Soul Star Radio. I'm Jacquelene Close-Moore and your host. I'm coming to you live, which is better than coming to you dead, because then I might have a little bit of trouble dealing with the technology hearing and actually getting through and heard, although some of you would definitely hear me. But I think when I do die, I'm probably going to disevaporate off into the universe and have a good rest just between you and me, because this life's been pretty busy. So talking about what we're thankful for today, we do have Thanksgiving, of course, in America, and that means many things to many people. Some people it means turkey, some people it means not turkey, and some people just are turkeys or dealing with turkeys, in which case I wish you the very best on that one. Here in Australia, I've had a lot to be thankful for this last week. It's really quite interesting getting up on stage at the Mind Body Spirit Festival the last week, both on the, what day was it? The Saturday and the Sunday, that's right. Gosh, I can't even remember these things. I must be getting old. But so I was up on stage and I was doing my talks, and it was really interesting because whenever I go on the radio show and also when I go on stage at these events, I can sort of get nervy. And so dealing with these nerves, you kind of you go, oh, all right then, well, nerves are probably a good thing. It means I'm going to have a good day. But it's always really fantastic at the end of the talk when you're feeling like, yeah, I can do this now. Show's over. And so I was sort of pointing out to people in the audience, as I am with this audience and you listening and watching now, is that the only difference between me and you is you're the one listening, and thank you so much for that. And I'm the one who's actually gone, do you know what? As crazy as this is, I'm going to get up there and give this a go. So, you know, when people sort of get into this worry about whether they could or couldn't or should or shouldn't, you're never going to know unless you try. And I used to think I couldn't sing, and sometimes I probably can't. But that doesn't seem to stop me from getting up and singing nursery rhymes in the middle of my talks at these events, which is really just about getting people laughing. And depending on the sound guy, it is either a treat or torture, depending on how he's feeling and miking me up. So we can have a lot of fun with that. But in the last week, and talking about relationships as well, like how do you know to trust yourself and how do you deal with other people in the family? When you're getting the feeling and they're not getting any feeling, and I just tend to say, well, no sense, no feelings at all. But we were off driving from the Mind Body Spirit Festival. I then had to do some group readings down in a part of country Victoria. And then from there, we decided we'd take the extra drive and pass on by a part of the country in Victoria, Australia, where I used to live on a farm down near the seaside. And we got to this particular town, which will remain nameless, although it isn't actually nameless, but, you know, we got to this town and I said to my husband, what about if we moved here and I could just commute to the city, do a couple of days, come back, write my book in the quiet of the city, of the country, sorry, and you could have a little tinny boat, get on the lake, just get out there, and, oh, I don't like this town, he says. And I just felt this absolute impending doom when he said that. And I'm like, oh, I don't know that you should have said that. Anyways, going on about how he would never live here. And I said, oh, okay. And I actually felt like turning us back to Melbourne. I thought we probably should go back to Melbourne now. Sort of got a weird feeling going on here, and I sort of think it's going to involve a hotel room for the night out in the country because we can't get back if we're not careful. So anyway, oh, no, let's just go down. Let's just go down to the seaside, you know, good hour's drive away. So we drove to the seaside, had dinner, and then started on our way back to Melbourne, and we had to, of course, pass back through this particular town that my husband went, ugh. Anyway, lo and behold, my husband tells me that the windscreen wipers are not working, which is really not a great thing in the country, particularly at this time of year because it's called hay season. And that involves lots of grasshoppers who were deciding that being a kamikaze and splattering the windscreen with many shades of green and khaki was probably a good idea. So as we're driving along, he's going, "Stop the car! The windscreen wipes not working. I can just put the water on the screen from the bottle inside the engine bay." And you'll be able to see. I said, "I can see well enough. We just need to keep pressing ahead. Let's wait until we get to an open petrol station in the next town," which, of course, was going to be that town. So we got to a petrol station. I wasn't sure if it was open or closed. I said, "I think this is closed. It's not going to have any water if it's closed." We pulled up. "Oh, stop the car. Look, I'll get out." And I said, "No, let's wait until we get to the next petrol station." "Oh, la, la, la," like this, and, mansplaining. Anyway, so he says, "All right." I said, "Oh, look, whatever. I give up. I'm not going to argue anymore." So he then got out and he opened the engine bay. And he says, "You better turn the engine off." I said, "I don't want to turn the engine off because I'm concerned." La, 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 la. And I went, "Okay." And that was the end of the engine. You see, it did not turn back on. The starter motor was gone. If we had have kept driving without stopping, we would have gotten all the way home. But no, we turned it off. He got the windscreen really nice and clean, which is really great if you're going somewhere. Close the engine up, nothing happening. We had to wait an hour and a half, which actually is really fantastic, actually. We got the tow truck driver came along, and it was really quite cool because the tow truck driver had no idea what I do for work. So he said, "Yeah, see? You should have listened to your wife, because that women's intuition stuff, that's pretty strong. You can't ignore that." And my husband and I looked at each other and I went, "I think you need to say sorry to this town," which my husband still laughed about. And the guy dropped us off to the hotel. We woke up in the morning. I said, "There's no point you staying in this town. The car's not anyway going to be ready today. In fact, you're lucky if it's going to be ready this week." I said, "But I think it'll be ready tomorrow." "Oh, no, I'll stay here." I'm still mansplaining. Men. So we got to the mechanic. He said pretty much everything I'd said. "It'll be later this week. I don't know when. I've got to find out about the part." So we drove straight back to Melbourne. It was a 2-hour drive, 2.5 hour, just about. I got to work. I did my day of readings, and then about 3:30 in the afternoon, all of a sudden I had a really foreboding feeling, and I said, "That car ain't coming home today, and it's coming home tomorrow, but something's gone really wrong at that yard." And I was in the middle of other readings, and I waited till 5, and I was finally able to ring, and the phone lines were down. There'd be a massive storm, and exactly at 3:40 in the afternoon, exactly when the guy had just looked at our car and walked into the office to get onto the computer to look at the price of the parts and ring us up with a quote, that's when the power went out. So my husband, who said he really didn't like that town, had to actually drive back and spend quite a bit more time there. Not only did we have to spend a night in a hotel there, the next day he had to drive back there, pick up the car, have dinner there, and then eventually drive home. So it's really important when you're looking at the energy out there to look at what you can do that's going to make things positive for you and not to feed the negative. And you could say, well, was I feeding the negative by having this fearful feeling, or was that foreboding feeling a fact that something was not going to go right here? Yes, the starter motor probably was going to need changing anyway. It's an old car. But isn't it funny how that happened? Because now my husband's saying, "Do you know, I actually think I might like that town after all. It's got a boat ramp." So there you go. Listen to yourself, and perhaps sometimes that foreboding feeling of something's not going to happen quite right, but in the end it could be what forces the other person to rethink what they're doing and possibly buy a boat and live in the country. Yes, so there you go. Our car was in the end fixed. It was driven back, and at least now my husband's rethinking about being stubborn about towns. So there you go. I thought I'd share that fun with you today because the question can be when you're in a relationship with someone, if you've got that feeling and you've got that instinct and they're not listening, what do you do? You know, I would say that sometimes it's really good to say, look, this is what's happening. This is what we're doing. Too bad. Other times you have to let them fall in their own little mess here. So something for you to all have a bit of a giggle about, I think, and but also take forward, you know, how can I use that information? What can I do with that when I'm in a similar situation? You know, how do you deal with it best? And sometimes it's going to be in them sort of realising later that you had a point. Sometimes it's in you being able to later on say, now, do you remember when I said this last time? You think you might want to listen to me. So yes, even as a working psychic, and by the way, my husband works as a psychic too, even funnier. You know, even we can still sometimes have a disagreement over who's feeling what and why. I would say it's always important to listen to what you're getting, but sometimes you have to bring your partner along for the ride, and sometimes that means you'll end up stranded in a town overnight, having a lovely sleep in a hotel. But anyway, I'll just get to my first caller, which I'm very glad to have. We have Kristen from Columbus, Ohio. Are you there, Kristen? Hello, Kristen. Kristen's coming back to us. She's possibly reaching across the Ethernet to get there. We're waiting. We can be waiting a long time, particularly with Thanksgiving. I guess we have to give thanks for the technology as well too. I'm not quite sure where Kristen has gone. That's quite hilarious. Talking about delays. So that storm we had in Colac actually moved across into Melbourne and was actually quite treacherous in what it did. And I would always say to you that with storms, when they're particularly strong, particularly in the springtime when we've got a lot of pollen around, it is really important to close the windows and doors, stay inside, particularly if you've got breathing issues, because we've seen an unprecedented number of call-outs for emergency services in Australia, particularly Melbourne, when this storm hit, which we certainly saw the preempters of that in Colac the day before. So it's just really important, to be able to sort of have a look at what you need to do to keep yourself healthy, because sometimes these sorts of storms and strong winds will actually whip up pathogens that can stay in your system for about 6 months after the event itself. And with the pollen being released to the extent it was, that can actually cause a lot of breathing problems. Now, Kristen has disappeared. She's possibly joined somewhere. So we'll hopefully get you next time there, Kristen, and I hope that you're feeling more comfortable soon. We have Erin in Tennessee. Are you there?
Yes.
Hello and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your call. When I do a reading for you, I use your date of birth just as a key to get in. That stops me from reading people in the cheese aisle or supermarket. Could I get your date of birth to do that reading for you?
Sure.
Yep, and the date of birth?
8/17/1986.
Brilliant. So you've had quite an interesting year, and when I say interesting, I would say challenging with that. And I do feel with you as well, you tend to really draw a lot of people into your space, and at times that can be comfortable if they're your kind of people, but sometimes you'll draw in people and it's like, oh my God, where did these people come from and why are they drawn to me? It's like you'll be very approachable in your energy. People really kind of want to be part of what you're doing most of the time, and there's a lot of tendency of people to look to you to leadership, I feel. So even when you're kind of just wanting to cruise along and do your own thing, there's a tendency there to at times really finds that people are kind of looking to you for what to do next or what your sort of view or vision of it is. And when I look at this year, 2016, it's a year where you're having to reinforce your boundaries quite a bit, which is why I'm talking about that sense of drawing people in. This year as well, you'll find that where you can normally just bolt ahead and grab the next opportunity or go for things, there's a real tendency to have to actually sit back and take in and smell the roses, take in the time and the energy of what's happening, and then make your next steps forward, because it can be a lot of one step forward, one step back, if that makes sense to you for this year.
Oh, yeah, like you're really hitting the nails on the head with everything you're talking about.
Yeah, and you are someone who really just likes to go straight to the point. You're very much a straight shooter as well. You're someone who you say what you mean and mean what you say, but you're also careful not to be mean while saying it. So I do feel that there's a lot that you share with people and give to people, but sometimes you're needing to step back and just give a bit more of that to yourself. You'll find next year has a better energy for you in some ways, but we need to make sure we're not burning the candle at both ends too much. My main key to you is to work smarter, not harder, if that makes sense. And the question you want me to look at for you today?
Well, I hadn't put much thought into it, but I guess I've got a couple of trips coming up, and I just want to make sure that I'm safe and the people who are with me are safe. I do a lot of We've been going to the Dakota Access Pipeline and helping out the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. We've also been doing women's marches in Washington. I've got another 2 big trips coming up, and I've been actually worried about those trips. And is everyone going to be safe?
Yep, Erin, I've got to tell you, I'm sending you a big spiritual high five right now. You're my type of lady. If I was over in America right now, I'd be right there with you, and I'd probably have a knapsack, even though I'd get quite exhausted. What I will say to you is that the march in Washington is going to be very safe for you. I do feel that you trust your instincts when you're going anywhere, and there are times when you get the feeling of, oh, hang on a minute, I need to not be here right now. I need to go here instead. When you're doing that, it goes well for you. I do feel we need a lot more people at that Dakota Access Pipeline blockade. We need to really think about what we're doing to the earth, and the native elders have been speaking to us forever about the dangers of greed, in this world, and particularly the whole thing of, water is life, quite literally, and when we look at this, it really is something that needs to be put back onto, not just as an environmental issue, but the right for native people worldwide, particularly in America at the moment, but worldwide, to have safe, clean drinking water. It is a basic human right, and I really feel that this is a very important thing to be part of, but you do need to be very careful to be safe, and you will find that if the more you're travelling in groups, the better this is for you. I do feel that the more mainstream people we involve in that and really thinking about that rather than just, it's a this issue or a that issue, the better that is. And I do think that this is something that, it's the very heartbeat of you. This is that social justice stuff, and your inability to tolerate things that, have a lack in a moral sort of standing. And this is why you're doing what you're doing, and it's really important that we have people like you out there so that it's seen and more visible. And I do think, yes, it is dangerous out there right now. They're water cannoning people in freezing cold conditions, and there are various implements being used that can maim, but I don't see physical injury to you particularly. I do think that the more people we have there, then the more light is shined on this, and it's really important to get media involved wherever you can. And certainly I'd be happy to interview any of the people organising there. If you're in touch with them, I'm more than happy to do that and interview them on the show and give them some airtime.
Oh, what was the last question? I'm sorry, I've got a bad connection.
No, that's okay. I'm more than happy to interview anyone involved, in the actual structure of that, if they're wanting to, talk about a message that they're wanting to go out there and ways in which people can help. I'm more than happy to be part of putting that forward as well if you're in touch with people there. And you can always connect with me through the website, which is soulstar.media.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so do feel free to do that, and thank you so much, Erin. I wish you the very best with it. You will be safe, but just make sure that you're listening to your instincts as to when to do what, and I thank you so much for your call today. Now, I've also got a next caller. We've got Penny in Minnesota. Are you there, Penny?
I am doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, darling. It's lovely to hear from you. I do get a very soft, warm-hearted, caring energy with you. And sometimes, like you can be very strong on the things that are important that have to do with other people. It's like you'll stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves, but sometimes you just don't stand up for yourself. And I'm just being brought straight to that with you, and the need to do that quite a bit more, and possibly something that you are at the moment really looking into. And so there's a part of you that can be quite assertive, but usually that's when you're aiming that towards helping others. It's really important for you at the moment to look at how we can do that for you, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yep. Now, if I can get your date of birth, I can read further into you.
Wonderful. It's March 19th, 1970.
Beautiful. So there's that essence of what I was talking about there relates really to your loyalty. You do take people under your wing and care a great deal about them and look out for them as much as possible. This year would have been a year where we're dealing with having to find what is the new normal, what supports you, what doesn't, what to put your energy towards and what to leave behind. And I do feel that very mothering, nurturing energy with you as well. And with some people, you'll be very communicative, and other people, it's like you just nothing. You just shut down, and that's a really strong thing. Yeah, really strong thing with you as well. You'll find that you need to feel safe with people before really sort of sharing the full energy of what you can be. Now, was there a question you want me to look at for you today?
I'm open for a general, or if you want to focus on love relationships, either or is fine.
Yep, no worries at all. I really feel like you're clearing out the decks at the moment, so we may be looking at what, what relationships particularly are supportive of you and what are not, so that you can step forward from here. I just feel like I'm looking here at something has come crashing down that actually needed to, even though we really wish it wouldn't have done it that way. And there is a new light at the end of the tunnel here, but it is like we need to keep doing the emotional clearing at the moment to get to that bright new day, and I do feel that's coming. To me, I wonder if this is a new line of thinking or possibly even study, but information that you're going to be working on that helps you get a lot clearer in where you want to go from here. But yeah, to me, I do feel like a new start's on the way. It's just really important for you to keep your eyes on the end goal here. More information needed, more study needed, and that will be able to help you to put the change in place for where your life's going from here, and I do feel that will be very positive for you. Next year you'll find you get moving a lot more. Next year you'll find you've got a lot more energy for what you're trying to achieve. So it's going to be really important to be patient at the moment, and I do hope you're hearing what I'm saying. But yeah, it's really important to be very patient at the moment and take your time quite literally. So this is a recharging time for you. I do feel that the last year has been quite challenging as well. So just keep your eye on the end game, and I wish you very well with that, Penny. And you can connect with me on Soulstar Radio if you go onto the website there, and I can further clarify anything you might have missed there if you need me to. Also, you can find me on Facebook, which is Soulstar Radio. So Facebook /Soulstar Radio. So I'll look forward to connecting with you there. Thank you so much for your calls today. And thank you also to Erin from Tennessee. Kristen in Columbus, Ohio, I'm sending you big love and a high five there, and wishing the very best. And I'll connect with you all, same bat time, same bat channel next week on Soulstar Radio, where I believe No, not yet. No. It's the following week I've got a guest. I'll be doing some other stuff next week with you. And I think also talking about various different topics, continuing on with the discussion about if you're dealing with psychic development, how do you best approach that and how to deal with different aspects of that. You can write in questions actually about how to develop psychically, and I'll answer them on air as well. So if you are a bit too freaked out to speak to me on air, you can just send a message saying, I'd really like to know about this topic or that topic, and I'll help you on air with it. And I will be over this next year having more guests, and I look forward to doing that with you. And once again, apologies to those we couldn't get through today. There are a limited number of people we can get through, and but yes, certainly you can connect with me online. So thank you so much. I'll catch up with you next time on Soulstar Radio. In the meantime, kumbaya, my lord, kumbaya.